when it comes to getting paid, we usually think of cash. But what if I told you, better yet, what if Beyonce told you equity could be an option to think about? News is that she was paid in Uber stocks for a concert in 2015. And if she was paid in cash, it would have been $6 million. But a couple of weeks ago, Uber went public on the stock market and the figure went higher. But is this something to consider here in Jamaica? Personal financial strategist Keneisha Mais is here to break down the numbers. Good morning, Keneisha.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I know Beyonce is the
queen.
Yeah. I was going to say other people have done it, but I know they're using Beyonce because she's most popular. Because she also did it with Coachella.
Right, she did.
She did it with Coachella. Now that Netflix is showing it, she's getting.
She licensed her Coachella performance to Netflix.
And so she's making money from that as well. So, talk to me about it because it sounds simple, but it's not as simple.
It isn't. I actually wanted to broaden the conversation a bit. So last night I went on social media and I asked some of my friends to, share their insights. And so I have a few comments.
Right.
So we did an Instagram poll. The sample size was 58 and 100% of the people said that they would take the equity versus the cash. But then we had comments so we had Kevron who said, depends on your financial goals. Equity cannot be, depends on your financial goals. The equity cannot be used to purchase more equity, but cash can, right? So if you have cash, and you can use that cash to purchase more equity in other companies. Priesnell said, if it's a lump sum payment, I'll take my chances because if the company is listed, I can invest anytime I wish or use that money to start my own company, which is also a consideration. And then Tremaine said, it depends on each person's risk appetite. So if the company is more mature, then take the equity, otherwise take cash.
It also depends on your financial standing because it might be nice to say, don't pay me now, give me some equity, but if JPS call me for them money.
Exactly.
So
you
the
have to
financial
be in a
standing
position.
is the first thing that's going to make the decision.
Yes.
Beyonce have money.
Shouldn't need for or like we're gonna pay next week, next month, right? So it depends. You have to be in a position where you can take the equity versus the cash, right? So taking the equity means that in the future this is likely, hopefully, to be worth more. But if you're not in that position, if you're at the start of your career, then it may not be something that's really feasible for you, right? You may need cash to get through your day-to-day living, right? If you do have some sort of lump sum, some sort of savings put aside somewhere, then go ahead and take the equity. But one of the things that you can also consider is taking a mixture of cash and equity. So for example, I have a client who recently partnered with a company, so she got an ownership stake in the company, and she provided her services to the company for free, because sometimes when companies are reaching out to people they're offering them equities because they likely don't have the money to afford their services, right? So they offer them some sort of equity in the company.
Right.
In hopes that in the future it's worth more to the person. So she took the equity in the company, but what she also did was to negotiate profit sharing so that she can still have some sort of financial gains right now, right? So that's also a consideration, a mixture of cash and equity.
The consideration would also be the nature of the company, because you don't want to forego being paid to receive equity that's not going to have value in a short while. So what are some of the
likely to do something else, right? And we have many examples of this. Like Instagram didn't start out as Instagram, right? And eventually the first iteration of that failed, and then eventually that team was able to create Instagram, and of course they deliver value to their initial investors. So you have to look at the team behind the company, because this is something that's key. And then you also have to look at if the company is funded in other ways, who are the people or who are the companies that are funding this company. So for example, if you have, let's say you have some Fortune 500 type investors or some of the top tier investment firms, if they're invested in the company, then it likely means that the company was vetted at a very high level. And so you can be guaranteed that, you know what, this company has a sound company behind them in terms of who is investing.
Right.
And so this may be lucrative in the future.
It's also, I think, assessing the value of the equity and its equivalence to the service you're providing. Because somebody can always say, I'm going to hire you for $300,000, so I'm going to give you equity in the company at the value of $300,000. But is the $300,000 equity really worth $300,000?
Yeah, maybe not. Like you say, you have to assess the individual companies themselves. So, for example, you have companies here in Jamaica who have listed on the stock market, and they started at, let's say, $1, right? Their initial starting price was $1, but that stock has declined to now maybe about 40 cents, right? So that 300,000 that you put in is not 300,000, no, right? And so this is something that you also have to take into consideration. But like I said, once you pay attention to the team and who are the people who are funding this company, then you should be in a better position to make a decision.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I mean, and I'm not trying to downplay Beyonce's financial savvy, but she also has a team of
financial
advisors who would probably say, well, we studied this company.
Exactly.
So it's important to do your homework as well and know who you're getting involved with.
It is crucial to do your homework. You cannot get, and this is the next thing too, if you're considering getting involved in a company for equity versus a salary, then you also have to take into consideration the company itself in terms of the role that you play, and can your role be that valuable to the company where you're in a position to make the equity that you were given worth more in the future, right? So you have to be able to play that position. If you can't, then I don't think it may actually work out for you.
It doesn't make any sense. All right. So, and the last thing is, what stage are you at in your career?
Yes. So like I said, if you're at the start of your career, if you have student loans, if you have all of these things, you might, if you live at home, then obviously you have some sort of financial cushion, right? So you still stay with the parents, you have some sort of financial cushion. So in that case, you can consider equity, right? But if you're maybe more established and you're thinking about, you know, like, I really want to build my nest egg now, the equity might not be so worthwhile for you, because you might actually need cash now to fund your...
And equity might be a long-term thing. So it's not as cut and dry.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It varies company by company, proposal by proposal, equity offer by equity offer. Like, it's all of them are judged individually.
But if you hit the right one, you're good to go. All right, no problem. Personal financial strategist Keneisha Mais, breaking down the numbers for us as it relates to equity versus upfront money. Do your research.
Do your research.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back here on Jamaica It's Morning Time.